Hey everyone, BBD here for another deck tech. I'm playing a pretty sweet one, Junk Reanimator. Actually not that sweet, but you know, it is what it is. Gotta do what you gotta do. So rather than cover like every card in the deck and their purpose, I'm actually just going to focus in on some of the changes that I've made recently to the list and some of the cards that maybe aren't like standard issue cards. And this deck's been around for a long time, and I'm sure most of you have seen it at one point or another, so I don't think it's necessary for me to cover everything. I just want to focus in on some of this stuff. So start out, I have 4 Thragtusks. There was a point in time where lists were dropping down to 3, sometimes even 2. People with pretty massive balls were only playing 2 Thragtusks. But I think the time is ripe for 4. Like I don't want less than 4 Thragtusks. I just want to tusk my opponent over and over again until they're dead. And just the meta is just very heavy aggressive decks. Like red-green X decks are what you're going to play against the majority of the time. You sit down against an opponent, and Thragtusk is just like the best card against those decks. So I definitely want Max Tusk. We have 1 Blood Baron of Vizkopa, and this card is basically a nod to aristocrats for the most part, as neither aristocrat deck has any way to get rid of it except Blasphemous Act, actually, from the red version, but the junk version actually can't deal with it at all. And it's, I wouldn't say impossible to beat the card. Both those decks can beat the card, but it's kind of difficult for them to. It's a guaranteed 8-point life swing a turn, and they can't attack through it, and the like. So I think Blood Baron's a very solid card right now. It's actually fine against all the aggressive decks too. Basically your 5th Thragtusk against them because of how powerful Lifelink is. 1 Garruk Relentless. I like this card right now, but I didn't really have room for a second copy, so I'm just running 1 for now. But I've spoken about this card in the past and why I think it's good in this deck. We have 2 Abrupt Decays main. That's kind of a difference from a lot of the like old school Junk Reanimator decks that didn't play any removal. And the meta right now is such that Abrupt Decay is just good against pretty much every single deck. Abrupt Decay against, like, there's a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, it's good against every single deck. They have something you can kill with it, and most of the times, it's what you want to be killing. Stuff like Boros Reckoners, stuff like Domri Raids, just things of that nature that just need to get off the table. Like Abrupt Decay is awesome for that. People are playing stuff like Madcap Skills right now, or they're getting like Gore Clan Rampager, they're 2/2. Just all kinds of situations where you want an instant speed removal spell, and I think Abrupt Decay is like the most versatile of the options. And then 2 Lingering Souls. And Lingering Souls fell out of favor for a while, but I actually think it's good again. Part of the reason is the rise of decks like the Aristocrats, where Lingering Souls is very good basically just to counter their Lingering Souls. You just want something to counteract their souls, but it's also very good against the likes of like Falcon Wrath Aristocrat. So I definitely like 2 Souls a lot. And it's also good in like some of the mid-rangey matchups too, like against Jund. Souls are very good cards against Jund. And because we're back on Souls and Garruk, I've put 2 Gavany Townships in the deck. Gavany Township goes well with the mana dudes, the Lingering Souls, and the Garruk, because sometimes you can just beat them by playing a bunch of dudes and activating Township a couple times. So I think Vault of the Archangel is also a reasonable choice, and I probably wouldn't play Cavern right now because I think that it's not nearly as necessary. You're not running into nearly as many counterspells anymore. And I think the effects from Gavany and Vault just kind of outweigh the little extra consistency that a Cavern provides. But that's pretty much the main bulk of the changes to the main deck. I'm going to talk about the sideboard now. Alright, we're back with the sideboard, and much like the main deck, a lot of these cards are pretty standard choices, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into detail about like each and every one. If it's something that like you want to look into more, there's been like a ton of articles written about it, and some of the previous videos that I've played, I've talked more in depth about some of these cards. So a few of the differences though, we have 3 Acidic Slimes. Now normally this was a main deck card, but I've actually moved it to the sideboard now because the metagame is like mostly aggressive decks, and I feel like Slime has kind of lost its place in the current like standard format. It's still a very good card against certain decks. I still want access to it, but I don't think I want to waste main deck slots with it, so now it's a sideboard card. Sin Collector has kind of fallen in and out of sideboards, and I think it's time to go back in Esper Control won the last Standard Open. Blue-White Red's kind of picked up in popularity a pretty decent amount, and Sin Collector's good against the Act 2 version of Aristocrats as well. So I definitely want the 2 Sin Collectors back in the sideboard. A lot of lists have taken them out, but I want them back. And the other card that's a little unique is the Tristani Celestnia's Voice. This card's been played before. I won a PTQ actually largely because of Tristani, so special place in my heart for this card. But I think it's time for this card to come back again. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but all those red-green decks that I've been talking about, Tristani really brick walls them. It's hard for them to attack through her without a Gore Clan Rampager, and you're just going to gain a ton of life every time you play any creature, especially a Thragtusk. That's going to gain you 8 life, and if it dies, it's another 3 life, and then you have a beast to start populating. Pretty much what dreams are made of right there. But this is the sideboard to go with the Junk Reanimator deck, and I will be playing it against Sevium today.